Hey guys, OG Albine here, bringing you guys yet another Draft League tier list. Today we're going to be looking at Generation 8. We're only one generation off of the current one. We're going to look at all the Pokemon in Generation 8, where they stack up viability-wise, where their value is, and kind of how I evaluate them based on their value at the price points they're given at in Draft League. We'll give our explanations on them. So if you guys do enjoy these tier list type videos, be sure to drop a like on the video as well as subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 5,000 subs by the end of the year, and I need your help in getting there. Helps out a smaller creator like myself a ton, especially if you enjoy Draft League content. That being said, we can kind of just jump right into it. Now, I do want to preface, one, we will not be ranking Gmax farms because this is Draft League. For those of you who don't know what Draft League is, there's a million videos on the channel. Go check it out. But Gmax was traditionally not really allowed past the first couple months in draft. It was incredibly broken and probably the least fun part of, or like the least fun era in Draft League ever. So we're not even going to discuss them, right? Second, there's a lot of alternate forms here down from the Hisui region. Some of them I've covered in past videos, but then I realized that some of them I haven't covered at all. I don't know if I just forgot on the tier list I was on, so we're gonna go over them regardless. It might be doubling up from before, but they'll get to be on 2 tier lists if that's the case. Now, with that being said, I'm gonna start with our starters. Now, I am gonna rank Thwackey, but I want to talk about Big Rillaboom first. It was gonna be our first S tier Pokemon, I think. It might end up being a lower S tier / A tier Pokemon, but I think that the influences this Pokemon has had on the metagame is astounding. It really anchors a ton of team styles and a ton of play styles. I love grassy terrain based teams. Guys like Heatran really appreciate it. Even current gen guys like, or I guess Gen 8 guys like Sneasler also very much so appreciate Rillaboom's support, giving it passive recovery, weakening earthquakes, allowing, grassy siege to pop and things of the sort. On top of that, it's incredibly strong in its own right, getting Grassy Glide, which had to be nerfed after Generation 8, going into Generation 9 because it was too damn good, giving it +1 priority, winning Grassy Terrain. Obviously, Rillaboom sets it up automatically. Choice Band Wood Hammers are absolutely demonic. Swords Dance sets are great, but my personal favorite, I love Assault Vest Rillaboom. Love Assault Vest Rillaboom. Great pivot. And one of the best knockoff users in the game. No stab, no anything like that. It's not even really about the damage. It's more so about how much progress and knock from Rillaboom really helps you force, because those switch-ins and like those, grassers being flying types, fire types, things like that, they don't appreciate losing their heavy-duty boots or even their leftovers, really allowing them to get shit down over the game and allowing Rillaboom to force its own progress. It's just pretty darn cool. I'm gonna go ahead and put Thwackey in C tier for now. It'll probably be one of the bottom end C tier guys, but I have a feeling that a lot of these lower tier guys are going to be pretty darn low, to be completely honest. So yeah, we'll put it right there. Next up, we have Cinderace. I'm going to go ahead and put Raboot down D tier. It's technically draftable, but not great. However, Libero Cinderace is an incredible Pokemon. Libero was obviously banned on it a lot in Generation 8. Some of these experimented with it, but definitely banned for the most part, because it was Protean, which basically every, attack you clicked, it changed into that type, and you got the same type attack bonus, making this thing unguardable. Now, in Generation 9, it was nerfed to where it's only the first move that you click, but something that's cool about Cinderace that, like, say, Protean Greninja can't take advantage of, is if you click Pyro Ball, you're already a fire type, you stay that fire type, you click it. However, the next turn, you click High Jump Kick, you still turn into a fighting type. So, it gives Libero Cinderace a little bit more flexibility in that regard. It makes it a little bit more potent of a Protean / Libero wall breaker, and has always been an incredible Pokemon. Court Change is an incredible move, really making your opponent think twice about hazard stacking you. Great abuser of heavy duty boots, great with a band. You got Swords Dance gem, which is pretty cool on either like double edge sets, like double edge quick attack sets, or just like blaze sets with really strong Pyro Balls, which is another really strong attack. Again, grabs great momentum in U-turn, high jump kicks through teams, and can even wisp things now. It's just a really incredible Pokemon and a really elite speed tier, which is something that's always important on really any Draft League team. So, great Pokemon for sure. Next up, we have Inteleon. I'm gonna put Inteleon C tier for now. It might end up moving up depending on what the rest of this list looks like. But regardless, I think Inteleon's a pretty cool low tier water. Again, not the most conventional bulky water in the world, but very strong. Very fast. Spec sets were great. Focus energy sets in the past were great with, crit sets with Sniper. Doesn't get that anymore, obviously, but regardless, before, it was definitely really cool. Fast Mon, U-turn, pivots, taunts. I love it in low tier draft. Obviously, this isn't just a low tier draft video, so can't really justify putting it higher, but still a good Pokemon nonetheless. Next up, we have Big Greedent. There's a lot of people, like, in general, who really like Greedent. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm going to go ahead and put it in D tier. I understand like it has some cool techs it can do with cheek pouch, things with the sword, has a cool move pool, but I typically think that there's just going to be a better Pokemon to draft than just a blanket normal check that doesn't really support the rest of its team well as much as it supports itself well. And I don't like the potential momentum that Greedent can suck up a lot of the time, so it's going to go pretty low here. Next up is Corviknight, though, and as I'm not a big fan of Corviknight, I do have to put it objectively in A tier. Now, I think if we're looking at Generation 8, even though I did not like it in Generation 8 either personally with my own playstyle, but in Generation 8, I think you'd consider an S tier Pokemon. I think in Generation 9, you consider a B or C, so I think we're going to go ahead and meet kind of in the middle here. I wouldn't recommend Corviknight this generation. It took a big hit, and half of its roost being slashed, plus it being a much more offensive metagame where you have less recovery, only half of them, whereas before, Corviknight could take advantage of pressure and really pressure stall things out of moves and be an absolute nuisance. But it could also take hits better because the metagame just wasn't as ridiculous as it is in Gen 9. Both of those things combined made it, when I tried Corviknight a couple seasons ago in BBR, it'd really be one of my least favorite Pokemon I've used in a minute. However, it is still very reliable, it defogs, it U-turns around, and you even have like bulk up agility like cheese potential, or just iron defense body press and being a big nuisance in that regard, being a great physical check or physically defensive check to whatever you need, or especially defensive. And again, one of the best U-turn pivots in the game, and if that's what your team needs, that's what your team needs. So, decently valuable. Alright, next up, here's some pretty bad Pokemon right here, but they both are draftable. Orbeetle and Dottler, really just as webs. I think like Orbeetle could be like a gimmicky like setup sweeper, cosmic power, agility, stored power, like body press type stuff. However, would I recommend it? No. Do I love his design? I actually really do. I think it's really cool. Next up, we have Thievul. I feel like there was some like meme about Thievul doing something in DPL once, so I'll put it in D tier above Raboot. I forget who it was. He was either DPL or DCL, one of the two. Where Thievul won a game. I feel like I've even seen this game, like on stream or on a video, but I forget. Just really bad stats. Not a great move pool. Pretty terrible Pokemon. But I believe it gets Stakeout. I'm pretty sure it gets Stakeout, which is a really strong ability. Just on a pretty bad Pokemon. Next up, we have Eldegoss. I'm going to go and put an Eldegoss in C tier. I think it has a very small niche in Generation 8 specifically, which is the only generation which has been in the game. That's kind of like that low tier regen grass. Again, Regenerator is the best ability in the game, so anything you give it to is going to be okay. This thing's move pool is abysmal. It is terrible. However, Rapid Spin, Sleep Powder, Generator, decent ground resist, very bulky on the Spadef side as well, so there definitely are uses for this guy, just not a lot of them, if that makes sense. I don't know. It really fit on very specific, like, Regenerator balanced teams, whereas you kind of, like, need this. Maybe you didn't get Tangrowth and Amoonguss. You can snag yourself an Eldegoss a little bit later on, so decently okay Pokemon. Next up, we have Bug Double, and as much as I love the cheese, I can't, like, put this thing high. I know Amel really smoked with this guy in a couple leagues. He ran, like, Cotton Guard sets, obviously, but he even ran, like, Swords Dance, Agility, Blast Resort, you know, variants, and, you know, a bunch of fun gimmicky stuff. I think if Baton Pass was allowed in any form of draft, like Stat Passing, this thing would be, like, okay in that regard, but, again, we're not gonna pretend like it's, like, good, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Next up, we have Dreadnought. I'm going to go ahead and put Dreadnought here in C tier. Decent lower tier, like Rain Abuser. It got Shell Smash this generation. I don't believe it had it last gen. It can also Swords Dance as well in Generation 8, which makes it okay. The big thing with like something like Dreadnought and a lot of the Rain Sweepers that just exist in Pokemon is there's just typically going to be a better option in the Rain, and that's basically Dreadnought's story. Like, even like something like Kabutops I'd prefer over Dreadnought personally, just because it at least has like that like spin utility, you know? But I don't know, maybe that's just me. And even then, I probably wouldn't draft Kabutops on Rain or Dreadnought on Rain. Next up, we have Big Bolton, and this thing is terrible. I mean, just give him Ice Fang or something. He could have been kind of cool with Strong Jaw, low tier electric that can hit things, but like the fact that it can't hit grounds at all makes it a very bad Pokemon. Do I love him? Him and Yamper, cute guys, 1000%. Absolutely love their designs. However, again, I simply cannot pretend like they are good Pokemon. Next up, we have Colossal, which is actually one of my favorite lower tiers to draft in Generation 8. I really like this guy, and in Generation 9, pretty okay guy. Gives you Rapid Spin, gives you Spikes, it gives you Rocks. For a Pokemon that's like 3 or 4 points. Like, really cheap. Spreads a lot of burns as well. Flame Body is a great ability. I remember Kurt's best Urshi Rapid Check in CGT in Gen 8 was a Rocky Helmet Endure Flame Body Colossal. Didn't end up working out, but it just goes to show that, like, being able to super punish physical attackers a lot of time especially because you're like coming in on a quadrus U-turn, if you can call it, is really, really valuable. And again, good spinner, pretty bad typing defensively, but it has its useful resistances, right? So not the worst Pokemon in the world, to be completely honest. Speaking of worst Pokemon in the world, Big Flapple. Big Flapple's going to go down here in D tier. Technically very strong with Hustle, but very unreliable ability. Terrible coverage. Can kind of muscle through some things, and I think with Terra it's kind of cool. But, I mean, you could really say that about anything in D tier right here, that with Terra they would be good. So, and I'm not going to pretend like they're great. Now, this is a guy I actually really like. That's going to be Appleton. Big Bappleton. Love this guy. With Thick Fat, it's really, really obnoxious. Apple Acid is an incredible move, dropping the spin off of your opponent, especially considering how bulky and annoying this thing really can be. Spreading Leech Seeds, you can even Iron Defense and Body Press and things like that, which is also really, really clutch. And again, with Terra this generation, you've seen it do really well as a low tier captain, maintaining Thick Fat on top of getting, some other, secondary typing, which is really, really cool. So, yeah, overall, great Pokemon. Again, grass types with Thick Fat typically are going to be a little bit better than grass types without Thick Fat. So, yeah, we're kind of having a mid-off right now, but that is typically how these early generation or early parts of the generation tier lists go. As we continue to push through, I can see 2 B tiers here soon. However, it's not going to start with this next one, and that is going to be Sandaconda. Sandaconda is going to go probably in C tier here for me. Again, Glare support is always going to be great. Rocks, Fresh Head Skin, pretty cool. It just really struggles in base stat total, in my opinion, right? Really, really, really tough to kind of make sure this thing is living all of the hits you want to. And I think you're better off just like fully speccing into this being Fizz Def and just like a 1 or 2 time pivot just to, get off some helmet damage, maybe glare something, get up rocks, and be a nuisance. I think when people try and keep Sandaconda around too long, then it's a biting him in the ass. Next up is Big Phil, and as cool as Cramorant is, again, I'm not going to pretend like this guy is good. I still, to this day, don't exactly know how Gold Missile works. I just know it's not very good. Tough typing without Drizzle like Pelipper, so, I mean, you're just not going to be good. I mean, think of, this is definitely better than, like, no Drizzle Pelipper, but think of Pelipper before I had Drizzle. Pretty terrible, right? So, can't pretend like, Big Cramorant is actually good. However, we finally have some B tier Pokemon. We're gonna go Barraskewda in B tier. B for Barraskewda. Now, why is Barraskewda in B tier? Off of Rain, it's terrible. Not a very good Pokemon. It's fast, but turn okay. But on Rain, this is probably like the premier physical Pokemon on a Rain build if you are not playing in Generation 6, 7, or Natdex. And what I mean by that is there's no Mega Swampert, right? So these Rain teams were really lacking in having that physical breaker. Barraskewda kind of fills that void, throwing off incredibly strong liquidations, Aqua Jets, flip turns, close combats. That's it. I mean, you get other moves, Poison Jab, Drill Run, I think you get Drill Run, which is cool, but really you're just running like triple Water Stab in close combat, and you're probably good to go. You're going to overwhelm a lot of teams, and your flip turns are very strong, your liquidations are very strong. Really cool Pokemon, and again, with Terra, another really strong Pokemon with Terra Water Stabs. So, yeah, definitely really cool. Next up, we got Big Toxtricity, who's also going to go in B tier for me. Look at that. See, 2 B tiers right away. Now A tier is the most barren one. Look at that. Not even S. But Tox, incredibly strong wall breaker, right? Punk Rock basically giving it a 3rd stab and Boom Burst is really awesome. Electric, Poison, and Normal, hitting a lot of the game incredibly hard. We can shift gear up and sweep with like a Throat Spray, or we can just rock out with a Spec Set and kill everything, or a Scar Set to kind of patch our mediocre speed. But that's kind of the issue with Tox, in my opinion, is it's really bad speed tier. Really wanted you to Scarf a lot of the time, but if you're Scarf, you're not picking up the KOs you want, and you're not bulky enough to not pick up the KOs you want. So really, I think Tox thrives against really, really bulky balance teams where you can come in and click Specs, Boom Burst, and overdrive the entire game and really break through. Also, really great with Terra Normal, so that's pretty cool. Next up, not Sizzlebeam, we got Big Skanky Scorch. Another Pokemon I actually really enjoyed throughout the generations, throughout Generation 8. I'm going to put a little bit lower, because all these other guys are actually really good for C tier, in my opinion, and maybe they'll end up moving up, who knows. But Scorch is really fun. Fire Lash, Knockoff, Power Whip, Leech Life. I mean, really solid coverage for a Pokemon that does have Coil, I believe does have Flame Charge as well to boost speed, has an immunity in Flash Fire or Flame Body to get burns. All great abilities and great qualities. Bug Fire is a tough typing when you are as slow as Scorch is. However, if you get that Coil up, really, you'll live a lot of those Rock Slides. You'd be pretty surprised at how solid this thing can be defensively as kind of like that bulky, annoying tank. And again, Fire Lash is a really, really cool move for a Pokemon like Scorch. It's going to be setting up Coils and maybe, Flame Charge or not, which is, pretty cool. Alright, next up, what do we got? Grap Locked. We're going to go ahead and put Grap Locked Dude, I mean, probably in D tier, right? Chat, you let me know if you've ever seen a Graplock drafted. If you've seen a Graplock drafted and do well, I'd be very curious to watch those replays, because I personally have never seen it at all. I know this guy's just a mediocre physical attacker that looks like he should be a water type and would greatly benefit from it, but he didn't. That is Urshifu's job, so... we'll get to those broken guys later. I mean, it's funny because, like, again, it's very Generation 7 filled. This bottom of the deck is going to be so filled until we get to, like, like this point, and then we're going to go, oh shit, wait, this deck is broken, you know? So, I don't know, we'll see. Alright, sorry, one sec, I gotta look at my phone. Okay, we're good. Alright, next up we have Big Poltegeist, not Sinisha, Poltegeist. We're going to go ahead and put this guy again in C tier. I think very gimmicky Pokemon. Shell Smash, Sword Power, like Shadow Ball sets are pretty okay. Really struggles hitting Darks and is really frail, so can kind of be stopped from setting up pretty easily as long as hazards are up in some way, shape, or form. Sorry. Preventing it from, you know, obviously holding a Focus Sash. White Herb is obviously an option too. Gimmicky can definitely, like, roll through you if you aren't prepared. And one cool thing I remember is in LTN this season, I got smoked by Poltegeist because Viz brought, like, a max physically defensive Calm Mind Strength set. And I couldn't kill it before, you know, giving up, like, 3 Pokemon to take it down. And it just punched a big enough hole through my team that I got smoked, like, 4-0. So there is room for creativity. I'm just not going to pretend like that creativity is, like, very common or, I guess, great, and to be completely honest. Next up, we got Big Hatterene. We're going to go ahead and put Hatterene here in B tier. Pokemon that's seen a lot of traction this generation, opposed to Generation 8. I think it's because there are a lot more stack-heavy teams with knockoff spam, getting rid of hazards. Really solid Pokemon keeping away hazards and kind of facilitating the rest of its team. It's also a great Trick Room setter for either itself or teammates, Trick Rooming into, like, Healing Wishing and getting a free switch into something or something like that. So overall, pretty good Pokemon. Stops a lot of the game pretty decently as well with its bulk, and it's really solid defensive typing. So yeah, pretty solid. Next up, we got Grimmsnarl. I'm going to go ahead and put Grimmsnarl in B tier as well, just because it is a pretty solid Prankster's, like, screens mod. I like it a little bit more than Klefki in that specific role. I like Klefki more as a Pokemon, but as, like, a screens abuser, parting shotting out is a big thing for me. Gaining momentum, as well as, again, weakening your opponent even more. Thunder Waving, Stab Foul Play is a lot better than regular Foul Play, and plus has a lot more offensive utility with, like, Bulk Up variants, like Thunder Wave offensive variants, Sub 3 attack variants I've also seen do really well. I think Addison used it really well in LTM recently, so yeah, it's a Pokemon that it's actually grown on me a little bit here over this generation. I think it's a lot better. I'm actually going to put it above Hatterene. I think it's better. Alright, next up, Obstagoon. This might be a personal thing. I'm going to put Obstagoon in A tier. I really like this guy. I loved him in Gen 8. He's not in Generation 9, so you young bucks have not seen the truth of Obstagoon when you're playing to a fat region balanced team and you just come in, you click Guts, Stab, Facade, and Knock Off, and Close Combat as your coverage, and shit, Gunk Shot for a Fairy if you really feel like you need it, but you could also just slot on Swords Dance for the obvious pivot out as they're trying to bait, you know, maybe some helmet damage and, you know, more burn turns. You get off that SD and everything's dead. Just like everything is dead. Has some other cool abilities in, like, Defiant, so I've seen Defiant Scarf sets do really well as well. And Parting Shot, which is, again, a great tool for a Pokemon like this. So, yeah, overall, really fun Pokemon. Doesn't fit on every team, but really punches through fatter builds, and I really like that option. So, yeah, pretty cool guy. Next up, we got Big Berserker, who's going to go probably at the bottom of a D tier. Do I love Cotton Eye Joe and his evolution in Berserker? For sure. Really cool design Pokemon. Just really lacking the stat department and the movable department. I'm not going to, like, beat on a dead horse and talk about why Galarian Meowth and Berserker are not very good, but they're just not very good. Speaking of not very good, I love the Pokemon with the ability that doesn't let me stay in and use my bulk. This thing either has, in Cursola, either has weak armor, which is not good on a Pokemon this slow, or Curse Body, which is a cool idea in premise, in the sense that, like, when you get hit, you immediately activate a Parasong. So, like, I see... Sorry, I'm gonna be on a little bit. I'm a little tired, guys. I see, like, the idea behind, like, you know, that being valuable and, like, always forcing something out if you can, you know, get the Perish Body to activate. However, it really hampers on this Pokemon's value in itself. Its value is basically to come in and force something out, but also force itself out unless we're sacking it. it off. Otherwise, it has some pretty cool, what do you call it? Like a pretty cool move pool. It's really strong. It just can't really take advantage of the things that it wants to with its cool move pool because of its really shitty ability. I guess I did forget to mention this guy. I will put Galarian Corsola a little bit higher. Definitely an obnoxious Pokemon. I remember early Generation 8, people thought this guy was like broken because we were playing on the 20-minute timer and like people that I don't know didn't know how to click taunt or knockoff. So this guy was like super high in tier list in early Gen 8 on Wi-Fi. And then people realized it was kind of shit. But it really passive, but also really bulky. Sub and taunt fodder to the umph degree, but if not aptly prepared for, really obnoxious. Alright, next up, we got Big Surfetch'd, which is another really fun mon. Again, I'm not going to pretend like it's good, but really strong, really slow, which is the toughest part, but scrappy, allowing it to hit ghosts as well as not be intimidated is really valuable. We can click First Impression for priority to pick things off, as well as just Close Combat and Knock Off to kind of hit everything we need to. We could technically Swords Dance if we want, but not really going to find the opportunity. I think Scarf and Band Sense. Definitely its two best. I apologize. It's just going to happen today, guys. Alright, next up we have Mr. Mime and Mr. Rhyme, which are both probably going to go down here in D tier. Both not very good at Pokemon. This guy can hold Eviolite and is faster. This guy is like bulkier and stronger, but can't. Which means it can hold boots, which is also pretty valuable. And I feel like you just have heavy duty boots, you know, worked in. Look at those big shoes right there. I feel like it fits. But regardless, not very good Pokemon. Not very bulky, not very strong. Mr. Mime is decently fast, I guess, but their ice psychic types, we're not doing much, unfortunately. Next up, though, we have Big Garm, and Garm is going to go up here in S tier. You'd think, why isn't it higher than the other two? This guy seems broken. Early on Gen 8, it was banned in a lot of places, and people were thinking it's broken. Now, were we able to kind of figure out counterplay to it? It just, like, hazards / a faster Scarfer? Yes. Limiting listening switch-ins was paramount and key, but it also wasn't hard to do. So people realize, okay, maybe it's not broken. Okay, maybe it's not a round one pick. Okay, maybe it's like a third or fourth best mon. However, still ungodly strong. Gorilla Tactics basically giving it a bolt-in choice band, so you can be banned and scarf or banned, and just nuke through things. And you even have the fun belly drum set, which people have to at least keep in mind. Next up, we have Runerigas, which is a Pokemon I'm going to put in B tier. I feel like it's better than everything in C. I might move Inteleon up, actually. We're going to move Inteleon up to B, because I think its league's better than everything else in C right now. But Runerigas, pretty cool Pokemon. Its ability, getting rid of opposing Pokemon's ability, is always going to be great, just like Cofagrigus. Gets Rocks, which is really cool. Ground and Ghost is a pretty good typing offensively and defensively. Make it pretty annoying. Overall. So, yeah. Next up, we have Alcremie. I'll put Alcremie in D tier here. They're like one gimmick that it can do is like Astronomical Call Mind, which is pretty cool. I know Astra used it well in TGS this last season. At least against me, he used it well. Just again, it comes down to move pool, and his move pool is genuinely terrible, and not much can really fix that. Yeah, and we're kind of getting to shitter territory again. Like there's a little bit of a stretch, unfortunately. Next up, we have Phalanx, which is also gonna go down here, surprise, in F tier, probably behind Cursola. Now, No Retreat is a really cool move. Omni Boost, just can't switch out. The only issue is your stats are terrible. Your stats are really bad, so it's really hard to take the turn to set up that, plus maybe even a Sword Chase after, plus not be revenged by a Scarfer after you take hit, No Retreat, hit, right? So it's unfortunately just really lacks in the stat department. Otherwise, cool concept, I love its design. Cool mon, just not very good, unfortunately. This is a really weird deck span, because again, I feel like this S tier is going to be a lot of Pokemon as we get through, but this A tier is going to be very weird looking. Actually, we're locally going to move this guy down. You'll see in a little bit. You'll see the vision. Okay, next up, what do we got? Where were we? Pinchurchichin. Pinchurchichin has a little bit of viability. We're going to put it below Thwackey because I think it is a worse terrain setter. I think the one reason it's allowed to be in C is because it's the only terrain setter or auto-electric terrain setter in Generation 9 that's not Miraidon or like big electric guy. I'm pretty sure that's Miraidon. So I think that's valuable in its own right? Really facilitating Quark Drive guys, things like that. And Generation 8 was useless because Coco's in the game, so like, you know, what do you have to draft Big Urchin for? Spikes gets like water coverage for grounds, which is cool as an electric, but yeah, other than that, not too valuable, too slow. much too slow. Next up, we got Frostmoth. I'm gonna put Frostmoth in C as like an honorable mention for Terra, and Ice Scales is an incredible ability. It just has, again, really bad stats, way too slow, and the move pool isn't there to hit ground, so you kind of do require Terra on this thing, which wasn't available back then, and was a little bit tough to deal with. Big Ice Cube. As much as I want to put an S tier for Amel, I can't. Oh, I skipped Scoundrel. We'll go back. I can't justify it. Again, gimmicky Pokemon and can definitely do some fun things. I'm putting above Berserker. Can definitely do some fun things like Rocky Helmet and Ice Face and things like that. Freeze Dry can get really fast. Can do like the belly drum shenanigans as well. But not reliable at doing so at all. Next up is Indeedee. I skipped it again. I promise you. You know what? Okay. We'll do Sojourner. As much as I love Sojourner, he's a very cute guy. He's just a big block guy. I'm not putting it any higher than D tier. You know why it's there. It's very bad. And DD though, Psychic Terrain Center, really facilitating those kinds of teams. Again, no Lele in the game, only Mon that can do so. And there's definitely teams that really appreciate no priority / the Psychic Terrain being up, which is really cool. Really strong Pokemon offensively, has some cool utility moves, you know, in its arsenal as well, which is pretty cool. Strong Scarfer, strong with the Specs, male and female are both decently viable, so pretty cool Mon. I definitely think it's better than these guys. Alright, next up, where are we at? More Pico. What a cute guy. He's gonna go right down here in D tier. Yeah, probably above this guy. Good utility like knockoff, parting shot, things like that. It's just a Pika clone with really bad Pika clone stats, so you know, only so far you can get being a Pikachu clone. Unfortunately, it's just how the world is, how the world works. Big Caparajah though is definitely gonna go a little bit higher. I definitely like this guy a lot. I actually think he's really cool as a like lower tier steel. Solid coverage, got knockoff this gen, which is cool. Can rock, solid with an AV, even solid with a life orb, which is pretty cool. So yeah, good coverage all around, and just not a Pokemon that gets O-code super easily, which is always going to be pretty cool. Alright, next up, we got the Fossils. The Fossils. We're going to go ahead and rank these guys all together, right here, in order of best to worst. We're going to go Draco Vish, right? We're going to go right here. We're going to go Draco Zolt, right here. We're going to go Sicky Cheese, probably about right here. Yeah, probably about right here. And then we are going to go Arctozolt, probably about here. Now, the reason for the rankings. Fish's Rend, broken. You almost like had to draft our Water Absorb guy in Generation 9, or at least keep in mind like what your plan was in the Dracovish matchup. Very centralizing the builder, almost to an unfun level, however very beatable. Dracozolt, really fun on sand teams. I mean, Keegan is the biggest Dracozolt enjoyer in the world. I know he misses him dearly, and I'm sure it will be back at some point. However, it is checked pretty hardly by ground types. However, there are like the Hustle variants, and like Hustle, Dragon Claws, and Earthquakes are going to do crazy damage. So that's pretty cool. Sticky Cheese is awesome. Bolt Beam Stab is great. The only issue is it's very low speed stat, and same thing for Arctozolt, but it does not have as good of a dual stab combination. Fish's Rend is definitely cool though. Definitely like a better spam move. Bolt Beak is incredibly spammable on this guy because he has Stab Ice. It's really just the stats that hold him back. Like they really. Is it better than these guys though? It is. I'm gonna put it in B. It is better than all of these guys. These guys are all gimmicky. This guy's gimmicky too, but it can run away with games. So, you know, we'll put it there. Next up, we have Durdur. This is before he got an evolution. This is just a whole Pokemon. He even had G-Max form. We're going to go ahead and put this guy here probably at the top of C tier. Especially this generation with, like, getting access to Eviolite. Became a really valuable rocker and incredibly difficult to take down. I've seen some really funny Duraludon interactions, like with this thing just taking negative damage at all times. It's really silly, which is pretty funny. And decently strong, solid coverage. Iron Defense Body Press sets are also really cool. Alright, on a little bit more meat and potatoes. A lot of these, like, secondary forms are all going to be, like, really broken Mons. And really good. Speaking of which, we have the greatest Pokemon in Draft League history. It's going in S tier. I actually have a pretty firm opinion that I think Pult should be banned just about everywhere. Yeah, even in Generation 9. Ridiculously fast, incredible stab combination, ridiculous good coverage, facilitates his team so well, spreads so much status. I mean, just an incredible Pokemon. Ghost is one of the best typings in the game offensively, and it takes full advantage of that. Next up is Zama Crowned. We're going to go ahead and put this thing up here as well. A lot of leagues ban it. Iron defense sets are great, especially because it got body presence gen finally. But don't sleep on offensive sets. Close combat, Behemoth Bash, coverage move kind of thing. Maybe even Howl, maybe Agility. Can really do a ton. Fighting Steel's an incredible typing. Sucks that it's a Steel type that can't rock, but, you know, you get a give and you take. Fortunately, back to some shitters. I'm going to zoom through these two Pokemon because they're genuinely terrible. Galarian Rapidash. Have you ever seen this guy drafted? No? Okay, well, I'm going to put it down here. Same thing with Galarian Stunfisk. As much as I love regular Stunfisk, I absolutely stand that guy. This Pokemon is one of the biggest pieces of garbage I've ever seen in my life. I think it's the Steel Stabs are Metal Claw and Steel Beam. So, thank you for being a Steel type, Galarian Stunfisk. You're killing it, bro. Next up, though, we do have Galarian Slowbro, which I actually do think is an incredibly valuable Pokemon. A little more offensive than regular Bro, but still pretty physically bulky. With an AV, it's great. Really strong offensively, nasty blunt claw mindsets. You can even gimmicky quick draw people, which is always funny. Is it good? No. But best ability in the game means it gets to be at the top. That simple. That simple. Next up is Glowking, a staple Draft League Pokemon. One of the greatest Draft League Pokemon since Generation 8. Regenerator, plus his typing, plus offensive. Really the same thing as Glowbro, but better Spadef-wise. And I got some great tools this gen. Getting Chilly Reception, allowing it to pivot out, which Glowbro can't do, and Slowbro can't do. That's awesome, giving some synergy with a lot of offensive ices, which is cool. And it got Toxic and Toxic Spike, which it didn't have before, which is really silly. However, it has them now, which is, again, really cool aspect. We can also, again, just go Nasty Ball variants, Calm Mind variants, Trick Room variants. Assault Vest is going to be your, your bread and butter a lot of times. Or just boot sets. It gets Slack Off for reliable recovery, just like Glowbro too. So, yeah, overall, incredible Pokemon. I could draft Glowking every day of the week. Love that guy. Alright. We're at the Urshifu forms. Where are we going to put them? I think it's worth putting Urshifu here. And Urshifu here. Yeah. Both incredible Pokemon. This guy has been a little bit more centralizing in the drafting scene than this guy right here. Dark versus Water. But they're both incredibly strong offensively. They force incredible progress. They fit on so many different team styles and, team archetypes. And they just come in and they click Wicked Blow or Surging Strikes. Broken Moose. They do a ton of damage. They had to be nerfed this generation because they were doing so much damage. And then they got the addition of Swords Dance in the move pool this gen, which is, again, even better, giving them more options. Alright, next up, what do we got? We got Zarude. Dude, see, there's too many S tier Pokemon. None of them are going to A. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to slowly move some things down. We're going to move this down. Dude, the streets are not going to be happy with me over these. And we're going to go ahead and move this down. Because there's more S tier Pokemon, and, maybe we'll move them back up. We'll adjust, but these guys have just been Draft League staples since they've come in. Absolute banger Pokemon. We have Zarude. I think Zarude is probably an A-tier Pokemon overall, but the ceiling with this Pokemon with Terra this generation is absolutely insane. I've also seen I'm gonna put an S. The ceiling these Pokemon has is insane with Terra, and even in past generations, people using cool bulk up jungle healing sets now can Swords Dance and Trailblaze and Knock Off, which is even better. Changes typing, loses 4 times weakness. It's so bulky, it's so strong. Such an incredible Pokemon. Great coverage, gets Stomping Tantrum, and especially close combat, which is great for an offensive grass. I mean, yeah, just an absolutely incredible Pokemon. Next up, we have Regieleki. I'm going to speak as if Regieleki is Terra banned in this conversation, because I have not seen too many places allow this thing to Terra, because I think it's super broken with it. Without it, I think Regieleki is a C-tier Pokemon. As someone who is a hater, does not like it at all, will not draft it. I hate Pokemon that are completely stuffed by typing those on 99% of teams. Unequivocally stuffed. There isn't great neutral coverage that you can hit with it. I guess Terra Blast, but most of the time, Ground is such an important defensive typing and such an important, roll compression typing that you end up getting that your ground types are going to be good. And giving them free switch-ins because you have an Aleki isn't good. It's also not a great rapid spinner in my mind because of the fact that ground set up hazards. However, very fast, can screens, can boom. And again, keep in mind, if we're talking about this from the context of Terra Lounge, this becomes an S tier Pokemon, it becomes broken. That's just how weird Pokemon balancing is. You give something one thing and it becomes absolutely monstrous, which is, pretty funny to say. Alright, next up is Drago. I'm going to go ahead and put Drago here in C tier. Another Pokemon with an incredibly high ceiling. Got some cool tools in Earth Power and Earthquake this generation. So we can hit Steels now, but again, completely stuffed by fairies. And fairies aren't very common. I will say there's less fairies this generation, especially less good ones, so that's cool. I think another cool thing you could do with Drago is pair it with a really strong offensive Dark, where the Dark pressures the fairy and chips it down. Or you can use Drago to Dragon Dance and Explosion on the fairy, taking yourself and the fairy out. Really opening it up for the rest of your team that doesn't appreciate fairies. Or I guess a fighting type would be, you know, similar in that vein, right? So yeah, I think Drago's fun. Not the greatest Pokemon in the world, but definitely fun. And again, Lucky's here because of Speed's here. I don't know if I actually said that out loud. If I'm repeating myself, oh well. Alright, next up, we have Gardecuno. Big old Gardecuno. Got some cool buffs this generation. Mainly in being a Terra Pokemon. But like Calm Mindsets can like cheese through games, especially depending on the berry you have. Freezing Glare as a move that can poison, or a move that can freeze, is always going to be stupid because freeze is a broken mechanic. So we'll go ahead and put it in C tier. Definitely can do some funny stuff. Then we have Galarian Zapdos. I'm going to go ahead and put this guy here in A tier. Really, really solid Pokemon. Defiant, great ability on a physical attacker that really just does not have any switch-ins. Really fast, U-turns around. Thunder's Kick in close combat as fighting stab. Brave Bird as your flying stab. Could also bulk up as well. I don't remember if it can boost with like Trailblaze or anything. I think it can agility, but I've definitely seen bulk up sets doing you know, a lot of work. I wish this thing got boosted and it would be really good defensively as well. Because it still has like Zapdos bulk pretty much, but it's just used more offensively because it doesn't have any reliable recovery. But regardless, incredible Pokemon, really, really fun mon to use. Alongside like guys like Pult, if you know, get the opportunity to use it. That's a really fun core. All right, next up, where we at? We got Gmolt. Gmolt's also going to go up here in A tier, probably about right here. I think with Terra, really high ceiling Pokemon, but also just like a really solid setup sweeping kind of demon in its own right. Agility and Nasty Plot alongside Berserk and pretty incredible bulk is going to be great. It's also decently good defensively, right? From like a Spadef standpoint, it's like a pivot, come in, maybe click a Fire Wrath or a Snarl and get out of there. So yeah, definitely fun Pokemon. Next up, Glastrier. Glastrier. We're going to go ahead and put this guy here in probably C tier again. I've seen it put in some pretty good work in lower tiers just because of the fact that it's so bulky and so strong. I used to pretty bad typing defensively for a Pokemon this bulky. However, it is going to be a big benefactor of Terra, and I've seen Terra Glastrier put in crazy amounts of work in leagues that, you know, force low tier Terra. So definitely really strong. And then Big Spectre. We're going to put S tier for Spectre, or S is for Spectre and S tier. It's, you know, we're just going to move past that. Pokemon I've kind of seen the light on recently. I'm not good at using Spectre. I don't know if you guys saw my WPS season. I use like Spectre to support the rest of my team more, and it should have been vice versa. But prepping for this thing against a player who was really good in Astro and BBR finals really kind of like confirmed the thoughts that everybody else had with me of like Spectre being such an over-centralizing Pokemon in prep that it's not fair. You almost have to draft a Spectre check in the builder, and even then most of them can be tailored to beat the check. It's just the fact that like if you're tailored to beat the check, then you might not beat the rest of the team, but still the amount of pressure it puts on and the amount of insane pressure of like, since if you make one big misstep you just lose the game. That's not good. Oh, Calyrex, awful Pokemon. We're just gonna put it right here in D tier. I'm not even gonna discuss it. Go ahead on your free time, go look up Calyrex's stats, move pools, and potentially viable stats. You're going to be greatly disappointed. Okay, we're almost there. We just got the Zillion Pokemon, so I guess we're doing 2 dexes today. Man, oh man, look at us. Alright, we got Decky Dewey next here. This is worse than regular Decidueye in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and put it down here. Probably about right here. I still have some pretty cool qualities, and offensively it's a solid typing. It's just too slow, right? It's something that like Breloom kind of struggles with a little bit, and Chestnut kind of struggles with a little bit, is like lots of latent weaknesses in grass plus fighting, and if we're slower than everything, it's not like we can really avoid taking those hits and dying. So I think that that's a really tough part of Decidueye's toolkit, is its typing. Other than that, solid tools, setup sweeper, decently strong offensively. Triple arrows is a pretty broken move. Then we have Big Hisuian Typhlosion, which is going to go also down here in C tier probably, right? Yeah, probably about right here. Right here. Gimmicky Pokemon, or not gimmicky Pokemon, flip-floppy in like its viability, since like some matchups like Eruption's going to be so strong. I think Infernal Parade and Hex is a really solid combination of moves too. Or is Infernal Parade a ghost type move? I think it's a ghost type move. Regardless, it's like it has a chance to burn and then acts like Hex after something is status. So pretty cool Pokemon. Just again kind of struggles in the base stat, you know, department, and it's kind of hard to fit on the teams. But Ghost Fire is also really good typing defensively, has a lot of useful immunities and resistances and things like that. So I can pivot in a lot and get some free switch-ins, which is pretty cool. Then we got Hisuian Samurott. I'm 90% sure we did this one in Generation what do you call it? In Generation 5, but we're gonna put this thing in S tier again. We talked about it before. Attacking spikes is a really broken concept in my opinion. And this thing does it so well. This is like the perfect round 2 Pokemon. Like the perfect round 2 Pokemon in my opinion. Again, if you can get like something like this guy, and then a strong fighting type, I mean, like the game's over. The season's over, to be completely honest. You've won. But can also SD, is great with an AV, flip turn momentum, Sucker Punch and Aqua Jet is priority, sharpness boosted attacks are really strong. Watch the Gen 5 too, so I'm pretty sure we talked about that one. Alright, next up, Weirdeer. As someone who has technically drafted Weirdeer in their life, they picked it up in LTM, for those of you guys who forgot. And played against one in PBR in the final week against Panther. I can confirm. Weirdeer is terrible and is going to go down here in F tier. It is what it is. It is what it is. Then we have Hisuian Quillfish and Overquill. I think Overquill is actually a really solid Pokemon. We're going to put it at the top of B tier. And Hisuian Quillfish is going to go probably at the bottom of B. Probably C tier. Just because, one, these Pokemon are both incredible spikers. Hisuian Quillfish technically a little bulkier with Eviolite, but having a dark type that doesn't resist dark is kind of tough and knock, so a little bit tough. But Hisuian Quillfish, great spiker, great T-spiker, but a great instant pivot, but also can function as a Swiss Swim abuser. Can also function as, you know, a breaker with like Swords Dance plus Scale Shot, allowing it to win games. Solid with Terra, really fun mon on rain teams too, because it fills a lot of niches. Being a poison and dark type and not a water type, which I think is actually really great for it. So yeah, we're gonna put it there. Kleavor! Kleavor's gonna go here in B tier. Definitely better than a lot of these guys. So right here, again, attacking hazards is a broken concept. Kleavor does that. It attacks and gets up hazards. Broken concept. Lilligant Hisui, another B tier Pokemon in my opinion. Kind of hard to fit on teams as well, but if you can, really strong. Victory Dance is a really cool move. Physical Quiver Dance, Chlorophyll Sweeper, has some cool utility moves in like Healing Wish and Defog, which Aim will use well in the past, so always got some potential there. Ursaluna is going to go probably here in A tier. Really wears itself down fast with Gut Sets, and if it's not Gut Sets, it kind of lacks in the power department, but can do cool like bulk up and sourcing and stuff, and if you have the opportunity to get it in for free against fatter teams, those Gut Sets are an instant KO every time. Next up is Blood Moon, which is going to go a little bit higher here in S tier. Probably about right here for me personally. Solid Pokemon. I don't know if I would want to build this team around Blood Moon personally. Maybe I just need to see the light, but I think something this big of a Blood Moon. So obviously it's a nuke. There's no immunities to Blood Moon, which is broken. But it also just like doesn't die in one hit to anything, which is also really terrifying in my opinion. So. But yeah, overall, really solid Pokemon. All right, what do we got next? We have Hisuian Kudra, not team captain, but very valued team member of the what do you call it? Of the I guess the final season of the Carolina Roaring Moon in LTM. Our round 1 pick. Dragon Steel is an incredible typing. Not being a rocker is kind of tough, but really strong offensively, defensively, especially defensively, is obviously incredible. Good with all of us. Even like specs variants or like Astro Body Press variants, or you know, weakness policy sets are all really cool options on this guy. Definitely better than regular Goodra, which I think is cool. I'm actually going to move it up a little bit. Probably right there. Yeah, solid Pokemon. Hisuian Arcanine, a really fun Pokemon if you can fit it. I think this thing's going to go really high B tier because it's so hard to fit on teams in my opinion. But if you can, it's a freaking nuke, man. Like an absolute nuke. So, and there's some matchups like 1 or 2 a season where Hisuian Arcanine will just straight up carry you. Other than that, it's kind of riding the bench a lot. Next up is Basket Legion. This is assuming the move Last Respects is going to be banned. If Last Respects is banned, I think this Pokemon is a pretty solid B tier Pokemon. Just like a Weather Abuser. I'd probably rather have Bear Scooter to be completely honest, but It's still definitely abuse brain, be decently strong. Adaptability is also cool. And if you get male and female, I guess it's even bigger of a benefit. So it's pretty cool. Alright. Hisuian Trode, dude. Chat, can I get a big screw you, Keegan? Trode's the GOAT. I love this guy. For as low point value as he is, 150 speed, pretty much unguardable volt switches, great with sub leech, and a great low tier Terra Captain, like an incredible low tier Terra Captain. So I think putting it any lower is a crime, and I think Keegan priced it like 3 points in John's League, and he needs to go to jail for that. Hisuian Sneasel is terrible. I'm not gonna put that low. Really not a big fan of it. However, Big Sneasler. Big Sneasler's a pretty cool Pokemon. This guy's pretty sick. Really, really cheesy Pokemon. I think with Terra, it's absolutely incredible. Without it, I guess my hot take is, I don't think it's worth building a team around as your like number 1 option. However, as your number 2 or 3 guy, you have some kind of terrain aspect to your team like Rillaboom. It can definitely be really, really pressuring in prep because you have to deal with that. But you also have to deal with Poison Touch, U-turns, and Dire Claws and things like that coming your way. So that's obviously a big benefit to drafting that guy. Hisuian Avalugg is really, really bad. We're going to go ahead and put it in front of Cursola. Now this guy, we'll probably put it up here because like there is some defensive application with Terra, I guess. But again, not great. Hisuian Zoroark is probably going to go here in, probably in B tier. I'd say behind Hisuian Gudra. The big thing with, right here. Big thing with Hisuian Zoroark and why it's better than regular Zoroark is the fact that it has a better typing, both offensively and defensively. 2 immunities, opposed to 1 of Zoroark's. Only 1 weakness, which means we don't have to worry about getting O-code as much. There's definitely a lot of neutral attacks that will O-code us. But on top of that, just normal Ghost is really strong. It also gets dark coverage as well. Really, there's not much in the game that really wants to take on Zoroark's stab combination plus its coverage. And that alone just makes it a little better. It's a little bit faster. It's a little bit stronger. A little bit more worthwhile in my opinion. Alright, only 3 more because we're not obviously ranking these, so you guys can't see them, but first up is Hisuian Braviary, which is a really, really fun mon. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in B tier here. Especially with Terra, Tinted Lens is awesome. Spec sets are great. You also have Sheer Force variants, which are really, really, really strong. Life Orb. This thing with Terra is really, really cool in a lower tier setting, and is definitely worthwhile a pickup if you do have, the opportunity to grab it. I think in standard it'd be a little bit more niche, but yeah. Next up is Enamor's Incarnate, a Pokemon that has been absolutely incredible throughout this generation. I'm gonna go ahead and put an S tier. I've loved this thing every time I've used it, whether it be Terra sets, just Terra Fairy being a nuke, Terra Stellar since that came out is great, alongside Terra Blast and Contrary, which is awesome. I'm giving it a way to boost its special attack, which I couldn't before, or just going like Terra Fire, Terra Ground. Really, you're just going Terra Fairy most of the time, in my opinion. Click on the Specs Moonblast, but incredibly strong Pokemon. Great tech and Healing Wish on a Pokemon that's going to be scarfed very often, keeping the rest of your team, or reviving something back up to full, which is, again, really, really cool. And just overall, really strong. Fairy Flying is a really strong stab combination. So, or a very strong defensive typing on top of great coverage offensively with Fairy, Ground, and Fire really being all you need. So, it can Calm Mind, can Agility, and it can also rock out with, like, Superpower Contrary sets, like we mentioned. So, yeah, and then we have an Enamor's Incarnate, which is going to go down here in B tier. Again, pretty gimmicky Pokemon in my opinion. Decently bulky, but no recovery. Is kind of tough on a Pokemon that's slow. However, like Agility, Weakness, Policy sets, Calm Mind, stuff like that. Iron Defense can really set up, Training Kiss up, and games. So, yeah, that is going to be our tier list. Let me make it a little bit bigger, because you guys can't see the... Make it a little bit bigger. Gets to see my shit that I've saved. There we go. That's going to be our tier list for Generation 8. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know if you change anything, do anything different personally. I think this is a pretty good list, though. And, yeah, next week will be our last one. We'll start a new weekly series after that if you haven't seen the community post. Go check that out. We also have merch now. I forgot to plug in the beginning. If you want to go get some Golden State Glades merch and support me and help me out, I'd appreciate it a ton. Drop a like if you enjoyed. So, if you're new, I'll see y'all next time. Later.